What is up, guys, and What is up, guys, and welcome back to Astro Music and Tutorials. So last week I made a video on how to make lo-fi beats in 2024. Why did I specify 2024? It's because lo-fi has changed drastically since I'm just saying the same intro as I did last week, so I'll just link it up here. It's basically how to make modern lo-fi, which I call hi-fi. So I recommend you go watch that because this video is going to be a continuation of that video, part 2 basically. Last week I made the basic structure of the song, the melodies and whatnot, and this week I'm going to be focusing more on drums. The drum techniques that I use to spice up my lo-fi beats and some mixing process as well. I'll show you guys what I do to make my drums sound somewhat decent. So before we move on to the video, I have some very important news. It's the beginning of September and I'm proud to announce that I have finally come out of music hibernation and I will be having a lot of tracks released before the year ends. The first track, which is called Misty Eyes, is going to be released this 20th, September 20th by Chill Moon Music. It's a part of their first ever Sleepy Lo-Fi compilation and I'm proud to have my song been accepted for that compilation. And not soon after that, on September 30th, I will be having 2 tracks released. One with a label called Everdream Records and another with the infamous Dream Hop. I will link my Spotify profile in the description, so go and check it out and follow so you'll get updates on when I release my music. But these tracks that are coming out in the next few months are tracks that I'm so proud of and I love so much, and I hope you guys will enjoy them as well. Anyway, let's get into the video. For those of you who are too lazy to go check out the previous video, I'll just show you a small snippet so you can get a basic idea of what we'll be working with. I don't know about you guys, but I really like the direction this track is headed in. Now, the tempo of this track is 60, and because it's 60, it's somewhat on the line that separates Sleepy Lo-Fi from normal lo-fi. So because of that, I actually have the option to either add Sleepy Lo-Fi drums or normal lo-fi drums. I feel like if I choose to do Sleepy Lo-Fi drums, my choices of techniques will be limited because Sleepy Lo-Fi favors simplicity, way more simplicity than the other type of lo-fi. So first, what I like to do is pick out a decent kick, snare, and hi-hat, which will form the base of your drums. I might also mix in some Sleepy Lo-Fi elements, like why not do a mix of both, to be honest. I only say that because I found the snare that I really like. Okay, so I made something very basic. This is basically it. So yeah, I did go for some Sleepy Lo-Fi elements after preaching so much that I was gonna avoid Sleepy Lo-Fi. I wanted to go for a mix of both, so I will be adding more upbeat elements. You know what, I shouldn't be saying anything, I'll let you know as I go along. Here's a little tip for you. If you have trouble selecting your snares for your songs, a general rule of thumb that I use is choose a snare that sounds similar to the hi-hats. When you choose a snare and the hi-hat and the snare hit on the same beat, they have to sound like one instrument. That's what I do. Now I wonder how this snare sounds with just the hi-hats. That's not bad. It's kind of close, so it does follow the rule of thumb. So this is our basic drum progression. Another thing that I did was I added a open hi-hat shaker just in between these hi-hat notes. Now, something that I like to do in this piano roll itself is, first I'm going to select the shakers. I'm going to go down to this control icon and I'm going to click note pan. By default, it's in note velocity. That's how you're able to change the velocities of the notes. So I'm going to click on note pan. Now these dots over here, they represent the stereo image of the note. If you move the note up, the sound gets panned to the right side. And similarly, if you move it downwards, it gets panned to the left side. So just alternate like that. I'm going to pan this upward like that and this downward. So it's going to sound like. I'm going to leave the last one in the center because why not? So now together they're going to sound like this. So now I'm just going to assign these sounds to their respected mixer channels. So now I'm just going to go one step further and I want to layer that snare because it's sounding a little bit monotonous. Some type of clap or delayed sound would be perfect. Like that. I like to keep it on the second and fourth beat. So let's just extend that the duration of the song. Now, even this on its own will be a little monotonous. From this bar, from the second half of the song onwards, I'm going to be adding either a shaker or maybe like a percussion loop. So here's the sound. Don't worry about the panning control for this because I'm going to show you another trick that you can use. But for now, let's just mess with the velocities and make sure everything's consistent. Now here's a little mixing trick you can use with percussions like this. Go to the channel rack, find the percussion sound, and this knob over here, the channel panning knob, turn it all the way to the left. Now go to its respective instrument channel. For me, it's 15. And if I play it, you can hear that it's only on the left. So I'm going to add a delay 2, a fruity delay 2. And this is what I'm going to do. First, click on invert. Now I'm going to take this time knob and throw it all the way down. And now listen to it. It's just been widened a lot. This plugin is basically inverting the delay of the left side pan. So the normal hit is on the left side, and because of the invert option, the delayed sound is coming on the right side. And since I turned the time knob all the way down, so there's basically 0 delay time between the left and the right delayed sounds. So they sound at the same time, they act as one sound. Because both the sounds are left and right, they sound very widened. This is known as the Haas effect, basically. It's one of the few ways you can do a Haas effect. And if you add like another delay on it, just make sure that it doesn't interfere with the hi-hats. Make sure that it doesn't occupy the same space as the hi-hats. Do what I just did. Make sure that the hi-hats are in the middle and then widen the percussion sounds. Oh, here's another trick. I like to add ghost notes in my songs. So take the snare, make it unique. Our primary snare is the Eve snare, and this new ghost snare is called the Eve snare number 2. Whatever processing we do to this sound, it doesn't affect the main sound. So I like taking it and reducing the volume a lot. So there's also one more little trick that I want to show you, but I need to find the right sound for that. So for every fourth snare, I'll layer it with this sound. And for this, I'll show you the simple version of the Haas effect technique that I was talking about. So Haas effect is basically stereo delay. For a long time, I was searching in FL Studio whether it had a stock stereo delay plugin. After looking for a long time, I realized it didn't have a plugin because it had its own built-in stereo delay in its sampler. Look at this. Turn the sampler on, click on this little button over here, and if you see here, stereo delay. Without the stereo delay, this is what it sounds like. Turn the stereo delay on a little bit to the right, and this is what it suddenly sounds like. That's basically it. The things you can accomplish with that one little knob, you'd be amazed. The drums, as good as they are, they're not punching through the mix. Even in sleepy lo-fi, your drums need to have an impact. They have to cut through the other melodic sounds. So let's make a drum bus. Drum bus. I'm going to take all these elements and route it to the drum bus. First, I like to add a tape mellofi. In the tape mellofi, there is a preset called Drum Warmer. I just like the way it changes the tone of the drums and makes it warm. I don't want my drums to be too sharp, so I feel like this cuts off the edge without completely cutting the clarity of the drums, in my opinion. This is basically a lo-fi plugin. There are free lo-fi plugins that you can use which will give a similar effect. Second, I use a fruity compressor. Yeah, I use the stock compressor. I don't use any fancy third-party compressor plugins or anything, just this. And in the preset, there is a light preset. Now for the third sound, I like to use a saturator. There are a lot of free saturators that you can use. For example, the Overheat by Sampleson, which is a very good and free saturation plugin. But for me personally, I like to use my Radiator. There is a drum puncher preset. I just use that and I turn down the bass. It's not a house track. It's not an EDM track. It's a lo-fi track, so you don't need that much bass. I just keep the treble like that. I switch this from noisy to clean, and this is what I get. Also add a fruity soft clipper at the top, just in case you process your drums too much and it ends up going above the 0 limit into the red color territory. The soft clipper will protect you from any harsh unwanted sounds. And then after the saturation plugin, based on how intense you want your drums to cut through the mix, you can choose to add this plugin. Now this is a stock plugin, it's a transient processor. It basically shapes your drums. There are a few presets you can work with. Max highs, max release, overdriven, soft attack. I do generally like either the soft attack or the subtle attack. For this, I'm just going to stick to a soft attack because I feel like they're cutting through enough. And finally, sometimes I add an EQ. If the drums get a little too intense with the high frequencies, I just take this number 7, dip it a little bit. Now let's see what they sound like together. Well, there you have it. That's my basic drum production. I'll be able to explain it better with the songs that I've actually released. So once my songs start coming out, I can easily break down the mixes that I did for those. My song Misty Eyes is coming out on September 20th. If I get a pre-save link or something, I'll start adding it in my description from the next video onwards. That being said, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.